Welcome back, everyone. I'm hi-rez aggro. That's Anatoly. He doesn't get a hi-rez tag because he's got the ring to show you who's the real boss here. We're in the third game here at Relegations for EU. And Toly, these are the two teams we haven't seen quite yet. New Game Plus up against my brain just totally lost it.
Novus Orsa.
Thank you, my
It's
friend.
Novus
Yeah.
Orsa right
Thank
now.
you, my friend.
Looking at the squad of New Game Plus, we have the side of no numbers. Repikas is here with his boy Murrdurr, formerly back in time, and it's Kanye Life, so there's some synergy there. Kero in the mid lane, as well as Gamehunter coming back for that hunter position.
A lot of veterans on that team that have been here, done that, but haven't done it in a while. You mentioned Murrdurr and Repikas, both in Season 1 World Finals, the runners-up to COG Prime, but haven't had that same former glory in quite some time. And then on the other side, you've got Novus Orsa, who formerly of Dignitas, they dropped down into Relegations. This team is led by ShadowNightmare and FrostiaK, but they also have a couple new names on that roster.
They do. Ducky's still there. He's still like relatively new. He had a great rookie season in the last split, wonders during the LAN as well. Also, Frezzyy, formerly Panda-like, is back under the name Frezzyy. Finally, no more Mana-like, no more Panda-like. He's back to Frezzyy, and as well as a FleuryQ in that hunter position. So after being with Obey for a little bit, finding a new home with some of the members from Dignitas.
Brand new duo lane for Novus Orsa, but we're going to have to see how they do up against that duo lane for New Game Plus. I think we're ready for picks and bans if I'm not mistaken here, and we're going to go right into those right away. We've seen a lot of these pressure gods be prioritized early on in Season 4, the Sylvanas, the Ymir, but Nike still top of the leaderboards.
Absolutely. We actually saw the last game where Nike was allowed to go through on purpose. We saw Cyclone GG was first pick, and instead of opting to pick it up, they went for this heavy lane pressure composition between the Izanami and the Khepri, and they just repeatedly proxy waved, stole the red, stole the purple. We might see a similar strategy from these teams moving on in the future.
I mean, it worked out very, very well for them with that high-pressure duo lane, and Novus Orsa is going to take away that Khepri right away, along with the Freya. Ratatoskr, a god that's been banned consistently through the first two games, is going to be the first pick here for New Game Plus.
And it makes sense to take this global jungler at this point in time. You still have the Thantos and the Thor. Those could be some options available. You're also leaving yourself with either Apollo or Izanami, which have great lane clear in the duo laning phase.
Cabrakan selected again, another god that's seen a kind of rise in popularity since Season 4 has come around, going to be locked in for Novus Orsa. And then Artemis as well, not the 200s you were talking about, Toly, and doesn't fit that high pressure sort of style.
Not at all,
Apollo
but honestly, Artemis still has great lane clear with her suppressed insulin. I think insolence, whatever you want to call that ability. I don't even want to begin.
A lot of arrows, like everyone knows what it is.
Either way, she has the lane clear. She also has a great late game, but the question is, how do you get to that late game with Artemis? You have to be able to protect her very well. Cabrakan is more about being offensive, so I want to see more defensive options for Novus heading into this draft.
Hercules and Poseidon both locked in for New Game Plus. Kero in the middle lane, he's going to be piloting that Poseidon. Hercules, another god. We've seen it all 3 games now early on in Season 4. Fafnir going to be the support choice for Frezzyy. No real surprise there. This is a god that Frezzyy is very, very comfortable on, but this isn't a god that we've seen yet in Season 4. Does he fit this high-pressure sort of Guardian build?
Not necessarily fit the build that is required to keep Artemis alive, but it's going to fit Frezzy's style for sure. He likes to go ham. When you think of Frezzyy, you think ham, right? You start getting hungry when you hear Frezzy's name because you know he's going to be in that back line wanting to dive. And this could be a strategy from Novus Orsa where maybe they go for a blink Artemis and they look to just dive the back line as aggressively as possible.
And this is a team that was guaranteed their spot in the SPL until Dignitas dropped their roster, so they didn't necessarily expect to be in this relegation process, so maybe they are feeling very confident against a team like New Game Plus. Ra and Odin banned away by New Game Plus, and Sylvanas and Geb, 2 Guardians, taken off the board by Novus Orsa. Bellona going to be picked for Ducky in the solo lane. I like this pick for him. Very, very aggressive player in lane. I'm used to seeing him on the Osiris's, gods like that. Bellona kind of fits that bill.
Exactly, and that's going to be against no numbers on the Hercules too, more importantly. Or it could also be the Ymir now because of this matchup. You could potentially see Hercules for Murrdurr in that support position with no numbers playing the Ymir, and more importantly, taking away the Bellona from New Game Plus. No numbers has been known to do some creative builds in that solo lane, and that Bellona being with an offensive build, that's really scary to deal with.
Very, very much so. Ullr going to round out the draft there for New Game Plus. It's going to be Gamehunter in the hunter role. It kind of fits the name, at least. Maybe not the role necessarily for him, known for his solo lane play. Is that for real?
That is a second hunter for Novus Orsa. It's going to be a Muzen Cop. Two hunters that are very great late game. Obviously, a Muzen Cop has great laning clear as well with those beats.
That's certainly true. The lane clear for AMC, never in doubt. That's never been a weakness of his. But the list of weaknesses is fairly long for this guy. There's a reason we haven't seen him in competitive play for quite some time.
He doesn't have a natural escape. He doesn't have CC immunity into his kit. He's going to have to rely on his teammates to kind of make sure that he doesn't get, or at least he gets bailed out if he does get out of position. So I'm really curious to see how FleuryQ now in that mid position.
No, it's going to be ShadowNightmare in middle still. He's going to be using that
Gotcha.
Artemis mid, I believe. It just the UI isn't quite correct in this scenario. FleuryQ in that duo lane, the part of the new duo lane for Novus Orsa. They're going to be grouping up here, trying to find a pick in this left side jungle, and their level 1 is excellent, totally. They've got CC out of FrostiaK if Novus Orsa wants to come in and fight against this, but it's New Game Plus, actually, who's grouped up. Their level 1 isn't too bad either. You've got a lot of CC from Ymir, plus a stun from Gamehunter on top of that. You can definitely lock someone down.
Absolutely, and that's why we see New Game Plus aggressing towards the left-hand side. But if they're not careful and they put themselves out of position, this double hunter between Artemis and the Muzen Cop can kite you for ever, and the damage is just going to keep stacking on further. And I love the idea to always put a physical hunter in that mid lane, because now you're applying so much physical damage onto the mid mage that they now thinking about maybe getting physical defense items as a result.
And you can see Kero immediately going towards that Dynasty Blade Helm, looking for that physical protection like you were talking about. And you see Bumba's Mask being picked up here for ShadowNightmare in the middle lane, as well as on the other side, Murrdurr going for Bumba's Mask in the support role. Totally, why are these characters that aren't junglers picking up the Bumbas?
So it's very easy to get lost in the jungle, and Bumba's Mask is going to help you make sure that you find your way. You're going to be taking a decent amount of damage since you're going to be clearing before the jungler gets there, so you might as well get the Bumba's Masks to get the extra mana, extra health every single time you clear a camp, because you can't always be waiting for your jungler in Season 4. There's just too much jungle around.
You can see no waiting on this left side for New Game Plus. They've already stolen away the enemy purple buff. That's going on to Murrdurr, and then you can see they are aggressing on the enemy red buff as well. ShadowNightmare and Frezzyy are aware of this and spent their last time in between waves trying to contest it. They're going to do the exact same thing. FleuryQ's wave clear hasn't come online on this AMC quite yet.
Kero and Murrdurr, and Gamehunter rather, they want to be able to get this red buff. Frezzyy and ShadowNightmare, they want to contest this, but Gamehunter already pick it up. They're both level 3, and with FleuryQ around the corner, you can't really contest this. You have to worry about the wave.
And that's exactly what the problem is for Novus Orsa right now, is they can't handle this wave clear coming out from New Game Plus. They lose both buffs on the left-hand side, and as a result, you can see the level disparity already starting to grow between the Hunter and support on the side of New Game Plus. On the right-hand side, it looks like the buffs went their respective ways. No invades on that side of the map, but all's about even. Is this what you expect for Hercules versus Bellona in the solo lane?
At least for now, at this point, before the junglers start making their rotations. Hercules just wants to clear the wave. If you're going to be looking to use that driving strike to cancel the bludgeon, you're not going to be able to really clear the wave, and on top of that, the bludgeon is still going to find the AoE in hands on the minions, so that trade is going to favor Ducky. So I'm expecting no numbers to just play it slow and steady, look to clear the wave first, up until the point in time that he gets the Breastplate of Valor for the cooldowns, and then in between waves with that cooldown reduction, then he could look for some more poke.
And right now, about a 500 gold lead for New Game Plus, but that's only going to grow with those buffs being taken. Frezzyy, he's stuck in that whirlpool, taking a good amount of damage there, but the freeze off the mark for Murrdurr. Repikas also taking damage courtesy of those minions. Frezzyy going to be able to survive A-OK, but does need to use that meditation, not going for the shell against the Poseidon that like you usually see, really relying on his own protections to save him from that burst damage.
And more importantly, he could also be relying on his ultimate to try to get some of those immunity frames to prevent that Kraken. And if he does take a little bit of damage during that, he'll pop it right back up with a meditation. So it's just a different style, can still work out. Frezzyy really wants to go ham in that back line.
He always does. I mean, we saw him earlier on the map just checking the enemy back camps, and that's what you really know him for, is checking the enemy back camps. FrostiaK taking a wave here on the right-hand side, still waiting for that ultimate, finally going to ping level 5. That's going to level him up with Repikas, who piloting this Ratatoskr, you can see he hasn't back to base quite yet, but has picked up tier 2 of that Acorn. One of the things that makes Rat so good in this early game is that he doesn't need to back to finish off that key item that replaces his boots.
Yeah, who needs boots when you got acorns, right? That's
true.
The whole style of it. And now with level 5 onto FrostiaK, there's so many juicy targets for him to choose from. Everybody except for Gamehunter is basically on the wanted list for this magical jungler now. And I'm curious to see who's going to be his first target. He's going to be heading over towards the right-hand side. Speed buff's about to respawn in like about 45 seconds or so. That could be a nice kill onto no numbers, trying to shut down this Hercules. And we we know what Ducky can do with the lead. Once he starts making these rotations with Bellona especially, that's going to be problematic.
Well, you touched on the interactions between Cabrakan and Hercules in the last matchup where we saw this, but as well as the fact that he's great against Poseidon. He has that slow immunity that's going to allow him to push through that whirlpool. On the left-hand side, Repikas comes crashing down FleuryQ, using that stinger to trade back in, just trying to juke, but FleuryQ may have juked himself to death. No, he actually bought himself just enough time. Gamehunter on the mark with all of his abilities, but FrostiaK is here.
And now it's going to be pinning down Murrdurr. Nowhere to go. All the ultimates have been used. The board is coming out, trying to get the kill. It's going to be the first blood onto Murrdurr. And this is the one disadvantage onto a Ymir. He doesn't have a natural escape. Trying to dive that tier 1 tower to find FleuryQ. Almost finding that kill, more importantly, but just sacrificing his own life in the process. Shell was not enough to get him out.
New Game Plus just couldn't quite seem to decide what they wanted to do. Do we want to dive FleuryQ for this first blood, or do we want to back it up? A little bit off the mark there as far as the communication goes, and as a result, it's going to be Murrdurr eating that first blood, going the way of ShadowNightmare, which is really the best case scenario for Novus Orsa. And you saw right there, you were asking who the target is going to be for FrostiaK's first ultimate. It is that immobile Ymir, and I expect to see that all game, Tully.
Especially until the physical defenses and magical defenses with the health come online for Murrdurr. Now, normally a lot of supports will want to rush into the sovereignty just to be able to get that HP 5, the physical defense, but when you're dealing with a magical jungler on the side of FrostiaK, that sovereignty is not going to help you out in the early beginning phases of that team fights.
ShadowNightmare going to eat a stun there, followed by another stun by Murrdurr, taking about half his HP, but he's not too worried about it. Repikas, he's getting pretty low, should have a dart up very, very soon. Use the purification, needs to get out of the slow. He will survive, but now Murrdurr's the target. There's the wall again. Kraken buys him a little bit of time. Frezzyy isn't done yet. He still wants him. That's why he loves this Fafnir. He's going to be able to pick up the enemy support. Murrdurr with 2 deaths early on.
Gamehunter's here in the mid lane. Frezzy's going to come out of his Dragon Force. ShadowNightmare with solo. The boulder over the top, finding the... No, not finding the double tap, but now here comes Ducky, but a great knockback. Another knockback onto Ducky. Could find the pull into the whirlpool. Rat's in the air. He wants to find Ducky.
He's going to have... the Eagles rally is perfect, but it's not going to be enough. Gamehunter with the rotation, going to pick up that kill with the bladed axe, and that's going to be the first kill for the Hunter, formerly the solo laner of fame in Gamehunter.
And with that, it's going to allow FleuryQ, though, on the left-hand side to pick up a wave and start making some rotations. He could look for a purple buff invaders. We do see Murrdurr trying to hold his wave outside the tower, making sure that Gamehunter doesn't lose any gold or experience, but without much vision on the side for the boys of Novus Orsa, not wanting to put pressure onto that purple buff.
You can see in the solo lane, Tully, No Numbers has a pretty substantial lead over Ducky. Ducky is this established solo laner that we've been talking about a good amount, and for good reason. Very, very successful despite his young age, but it's been No Numbers. Level 9, he's got the level advantage as well. As you take a look at the net worth, he's up about 400 gold just from pushing the enemy under tower, basically.
It's also the Fire Giant Elementals that has been able to pick up earlier on. We saw the pressure that he applied onto Ducky when he found the pull push, not even on the wave, just onto Ducky. He found also himself inside that tower, took one tower shot, and then on top of that, No Numbers used the boulder to poke out Ducky and clear the wave at the same time. And that's what you want to do, whether you're in the Hunter 1v1 or in the solo 1v1. Maximize your abilities to hit the wave and the enemy god, and as a result, Ducky had to prematurely back, which sacrificed a little bit of a wave.
And you can see that level disparity still present in this solo lane. On the left-hand side, basically everything even. Murrdurr, he's actually got the level advantage over top of Frezzyy despite the 2 deaths. Frezzyy hasn't been sent back to base once. Murrdurr has twice, but the farming game for Murrdurr has just been a little bit stronger.
Yes, the Murrdurr has been having the Traveler shoes as a result, as compared to Frezzyy having the shoes of the Magi. Having more penetration is going to allow Frezzyy to continuously look for those offensive plays, but Repikas wants to find one of his own.
And there it is, on to FleuryQ. The Stinger is perfect to prevent the dart, but I don't know if it's going to buy him enough time. It won't. FleuryQ, he's going to fall. FrostiaK is here, but gets walled from his own wall. Murrdurr with the superior wall form.
Wall into counter wall. Great play coming out of Murrdurr, preventing anyone from getting trapped under FrostiaK. So that's going to be a clean pick onto FleuryQ. Gamehunter getting the better end of that one as well. Going to continue to farm, trying to finish off that Transcendence, get more mana, get more MP5, start spamming those abilities in these team fights.
For me, this Repikas' performance thus far has been very, very indicative of his veteranship. Just knowing that we cannot allow an DMC to get to the later stage of the game. And he's been over there consistently using that ultimate to get there over the top of wards by the Gold Fury. Ducky being a little bit cheeky on the right-hand side, sealing away the speed buff from Repikas. But regardless, Repi has just been on point with these ultimates to the left-hand side. Ducky, he's going to get a little bit of damage here, pulled back in. No Numbers has been so consistent with these Earthbreakers, but still not enough to find any kills.
Now, look at this. Repikas is getting zoned away by Frezzyy, and Frezzyy now has the speed buff that was stolen. That's the most annoying thing for a jungler, whenever you lose that speed buff. And now for the next 3 to 4 minutes before that respawns again, it's just going to be the most slow game now for Repikas. He's been known to make these aggressive offensive plays with this Ratatoskr. Not having the speed buff could be the difference between getting in a position to use that ultimate in time to maybe gank FleuryQ yet again, who's been such an easy target for Repikas considering he has no natural escape.
So FleuryQ is a guy that has been around for a little bit, but not necessarily in the pro side of the scene, and he's looked pretty good thus far with the stingers, I would say. Done a couple nice 180s to prevent dashes from his gankers, but hasn't been on point with these purifications totally. He needs to be hitting those preemptively to prevent the knockup. Instead, he's just glowing gold in midair most of the time.
That 1 second knockup is the difference between maybe survival or death, and as a result, FleuryQ does find himself with that 1 death earlier on, trying to finish now into either the Wind Demon here or the Poison Star. Probably going to be the Poison Star, and exactly that will be. It's a little bit more cost effective than the Wind Demon right now, and that's a good idea too, because considering how aggressive New Game Plus is, this Poison Star might actually be the difference between FleuryQ surviving or not.
It definitely allows him to trade into his opposition a little bit better. Remember, whenever you get a crit with Poison Star, you're giving damage reduction, basically. They're not going to be doing as much damage to you, as well as they're slowed, so you're going to be able to really chase them very effectively.
20% on both the slow as well as the damage reduction. 2,200 gold. It's a very nice item for the cost. So as a result, we're seeing a lot of these hunters consistently pick this up just to now, instead of going for an offensive-minded set, they're looking for more of the defensive plays, making sure that they survive and not give anything up in return.
Ooh, the wall going to stop the aggression onto Murrdurr there on the but Novus Orsa. They're content with pulling this Gold Fury for now, though I suspect this is nothing but a bait, and that's exactly correct as they head back towards the middle lane with the waves meeting up. Kero, he's got a level lead right now on top of ShadowNightmare, who still only has those boots. The wall, but the boar is there to give him that CC immunity. Murrdurr channels the Shards of Ice for just a little bit, but now he's locked in. Kraken on top of FrostiaK isn't going to find a home. Frosty picks up Murrdurr.
Repikas is here trying to find a cleanup, but now he's going to go into the sky. FrostiaK could be the target. He will land onto 2, but he can't follow up here. No Numbers was not in a position to find the pull push. Both solo laners making their way in the mid lane. So overall, clean pick yet again onto Murrdurr, getting constantly walled off by FrostiaK. And the Krakens from Kero have been on point in terms of peeling off. But before this Ymir really gets tanky, he's just going to die consistently already with 3 deaths.
And that's exactly what the game plan has been thus far for Novus Orsa, picking on Murrdurr, formerly on Sanguine, and formerly before that, even playing under Kanye Life for the Titan team that went 2 worlds. But he doesn't have any protection online quite yet, Tully, though. He just outright bought a Heartward Amulet. And that's an interesting choice for me, because you were talking about how much he needs his magical protection up against the Magical Hunter of FrostiaK, but Novus Orsa has 2 hunters on their lineup, and so he's going to need some physical protection, but maybe not until later on.
Right now, it's only level 10 Artemis, and because both of these hunters are going for the Poison Star, it's not that much burst damage that you really have to worry about. You're more focused about the channeling damage over time from FrostiaK, as well as the burst potential from him. So once you survive that, Murrdurr's going to be able to retreat from the team fight and then utilize the HP 5 from the Traveler Shoes once he's out of combat to get back into it.
Very, very excited to see this Void Stone being picked up by FrostiaK. I think that's the perfect response to the Heartward Amulet coming out of Murrdurr for New Game Plus. You can see that Kero working on that Gem of Isolation. That's going to be the next item for him. 3rd item that's right around where you want to build it, but he is going to be lacking some penetration. Frezzyy has gone for Sovereignty, though, so not a whole lot of magical protection for him there.
FrostiaK, though, is going to get walled off. I think he was looking for Murrdurr there yet again, and like you mentioned before, that Void Stone, it's not only going to help him maybe lock down Murrdurr, but it's also going to keep him alive against the Krakens coming out of Kero, more importantly. So heading into the mid game, almost level 12, so once that happens, we might even see a more aggressive FrostiaK potentially grabbing himself a blink.
Gamehunter looks like he wants to be aggressive on the left-hand side, hanging out in the jungle, trying to poke out FleuryQ. But this is where AMC shines, is in the laning phase. He wants to 1v1 box you because his damage potential is absolutely through the roof. It's whenever he gets ganked from characters like Ratatoskr that he really starts to struggle, and that's exactly why we've seen Repikas on that left-hand side so often.
This is the power spike for FleuryQ to start taking advantage of his maxed out hives, giving him the attack speed, the movement speed, the HP 5 that he really needs to start trading against Gamehunter. And once Poison Star's been complete and now working on the Wind Demon, that's going to give him even more mobility to make it more difficult for Gamehunter to look for any offensive plays.
And here we go again. Repikas on this left-hand side stuns out FleuryQ. His Sanctuary isn't going to buy him enough time for now. Repi, he's going to find his second kill of the game, both onto the enemy B of FleuryQ.
And not finding any wards to be able to spot out these ganks coming out, and as a result now, New Game Plus are going to find the gold here, but instead, right-hand side, Novus Orsa trying to get the Portal Demon. It does get secured now, and that's going to be free gold for New Game Plus. Portal going on the side of Novus.
But it's not enough to even up that gold disparity for Novus Orsa.
That blue portal, though, was that New Game Plus? Did No Number steal that with a boulder?
No way. Did he really?
It's a blue portal, so that means New Game Plus got it.
Unbelievable. No Numbers making it happen on the left-hand or the right-hand side, while New Game Plus, the rest of them all do it. And you're exactly right, Tolly. They've used that portal to come and gank. The Kraken's gonna find two. Gamehunter picks up Frezzyy and Ducky. The Hunter position treating Gamehunter very, very well. 3 dead for Novus Orsa. Excuse me, 2 dead, 3 still alive, but they're not going to be able to defend this tier 1 tower.
No Numbers, MVP right now, just bouldering down that Portal Demon, allowing the rotation from Kero and everybody else in Co, finding that double Kraken, finding the tier 1 tower on the right, and now they're going to continue for the tier 2.
Repikas, or FrostiaK, just trying to secure his own speed buff. He will, and going to eat that Shards of Ice damage from Murrdurr in the process. But all the while, the rest of New Game Plus taking down that tier 2 tower on the right-hand side. FleuryQ still here on left. Surprised we don't see him continue to push with everyone from New Game Plus on the right-hand side. That would have been a good opportunity for Novus Orsa to get some much-needed gold.
Especially with the attack speed from the Muzen with the hives. That tower will go down very quickly once there's one wave there. Like you mentioned before, at least getting 500 gold back to your team would have been really complimentary here, but I think he was also really afraid of potentially the ultimate from Repikas. This global pressure out of this Ratatoskr has been so much trouble for FleuryQ. Already with 2 deaths, now finishing off his Wind Demon. We'll probably see him be a little bit more aggressive once this has been already completed.
The good news for Novus Orsa right now, Tolly, is that they have an excellent late game composition here. They have 2 late game hunters in AMC. Well, AMC is really in all sorts of the game hunter, just we usually don't see him get to late game, but his late game is absolutely insane. Artemis, absolutely a late game hunter. And then they have that late game steroid from Frezzyy that would really complement these 2 hunters in that Fafnir. But they have to get there, and right now, New Game Plus is looking very, very clean.
Up already almost 6,000 gold. They're starting to group up between this mid and left-hand side. They want to continue to put pressure onto FleuryQ. We see him positioning himself away from that tier 1 tower. It's getting absolutely melted just because of the fact that the threat of the global pressure is forcing him outside of the tower. Gamehunter gets some shots and gets it to less than half health. It's all about a slow and steady pace for New Game Plus.
FrostiaK, he's handling Repikas in the front, and then Murrdurr, he's also handling ShadowNightmare and Frezzy's ultimate. Up into the dragon goes Frezzyy. Kero is the focus for now, but No Numbers has teleported in, and he's going to find a 2-man push with the boulder as well. FrostiaK, very, very low, has to retreat for now. Repikas, meanwhile, he's retreated to the middle lane, and he's going to be forced back.
He was very low. He had to retreat. Now it's going to be a 5-on-4 for a little bit on the side of Novus Orsa's advantage, as well as Repikas not having that ultimate. Once he does make that rotation to the left-hand side, ShadowNightmare, he wants to find the trap, but instead he's the one that's going to get trapped, forced into the beads.
Purification gonna buy him some time, but it's not gonna help FrostiaK. He's gonna fall to No Numbers. Gotta give a shout out to Kero with the slow from the Whirlpool, the Gem of Isolation Whirlpool as well. Repikas has returned. He's looking for ShadowNightmare. Not gonna find the stun, but the slow gonna buy ShadowNightmare some time. Stun from Frezzyy there to help him out, but not quite enough. Repikas Repikas knocks down the mid laner for Novus Orsa. Now it's a 5v3.
ShadowNightmare just put himself so far out of position as a result. That was an easy pick for New Game Plus, walling him off, and then as well as the stun to be able to force out the beads. Nowhere to go. You don't have a natural escape. No dash, no jump. Obviously, that's going to be a free kill. With these 2 free kills now, New Game Plus, they got the 2 towers on the right earlier on, and now they're cleaning up the left.
This has been that was a close game for the first 12 to 13 minutes, but in the last few minutes, it's been all New Game Plus. Let's take a look at the graphs right now, and you can see that this rise has been meteoric. At right around the 14-minute mark, it stops being an even game, and it goes all in the favor of the blue team, right around a 9K gold lead very, very quickly for New Game Plus. And like I mentioned, the late game for Novus Orsa is great, but I don't know if they're going to get there.
Now, the level 17s are about to come online for New Game Plus. The damage is going to be out of this world for Kero's ultimate. No Numbers Boulder will actually hit like a truck. So Novus Orsa with a squishy lineup between ShadowNightmare, FleuryQ on the double hunter. This is not looking too good. Also, there's not that much health on the side of FrostiaK. He does have a little bit of physical defense, but just not enough to survive here against Repikas and No Numbers.
Yeah, no additional HP in that build so far for FrostiaK. You can see Frezzyy, he's gone for the double aura, much needed. No Numbers, he's picked up the Shield of Regrowth, ton of HP, ton of CDR, and a ton of damage. FleuryQ drops right into the Kraken, but the Aegis is good enough to immune 2 ultimates. Kero, meanwhile, gets picked up on the backside. FrostiaK just pounding into the ground. No Numbers isn't going to be able to help his team.
Repikas diving in the back, going on to FleuryQ. He's in a little bit of trouble, but Gamehunter's there for the stun, preventing Ducky from finding the chase. No Numbers not on the mark with the pull, just slightly out of range. Great wall from Murrdurr, going to keep him alive, and with that 1 pick onto Kero, 5-on-4, Novus Orsa going to start up the portal demon.
No Numbers has done this once before. He's stolen this away. He's going to try and do it again. That portal will be secured by Novus Orsa. Murrdurr around the backside, going to find a big freeze. The wall buys him some space as well. Frezzyy, big crits coming from Gamehunter, but not quite enough yet. Murrdurr, Shards of Ice, ShadowNightmare. He's going to fall here. The support picks up the enemy hunter. No Numbers isn't done yet. Still chasing down this B. Can't quite find the driving strike onto FrostiaK, and as a result, Novus Orsa, they're backing up.
Frezzyy, though, he has nowhere to go. No Numbers knows exactly where he is. Gamehunter's there, trailing right behind him. The axe is not on the mark. But the boulder, though, slightly off the mark, but Gamehunter will find the kill. Repikas was there to clean up if necessary.
FleuryQ teleports in, courtesy of that portal that they just secured. Maybe they want to try and force something here in Novus Orsa, trying to catch these backs. Ducky will stop him. Repikas, he's disarmed. He's got nowhere to go. Ducky picks up his first kill of the game.
What an important portal that was taken. If that wasn't existent there for the 2nd time in a row, FleuryQ wouldn't have been able to make that rotation. It would have been a man advantage for New Game Plus. So despite winning that last team fight before the rotation, now Novus Orsa feeling confident, feeling like they got to start something with this 8,000 gold deficit. But now the
rallying ritual. Murrdurr is here. He spent the 750 and he's here to assist. The wall is perfect. ShadowNightmare stuck up against it. Purification gonna buy him his life for now, but Ducky, he's knocked back. Tidal Surge jumps over the wall with Eagle's Rally. Gamehunter looking to chase him down. He's got the movement speed. He's got the autos as well. Only needs 1 more. No Numbers says, I'll handle this for you, buddy. I need a kill anyways. I've only got 2. 40-second respawn for Ducky, 5-on-4 for New Game Plus. They have some options between Golfier or Fire Giant. Instead, not thinking about the tier 2, they're going to go straight into the Golfier. They're not feeling too confident quite yet to start up the Fire Giant, despite themselves having the Kraken available. Still only level 16 is Kero, working on a very aggressive build here, trying to finish off that Obsidian Shard. Has the utility with the slow from the Gem of Isolation, but look at this right-hand side. The Fire Giant being started. But New Game Plus knows Repikas has spotted that out, and as a result, they have to back up. Freeze, pull, driving strike. Frezzyy taking a lot of damage, but he's just so tanky. No way to kill him at this stage, except if you get a great wall out of Murrdurr. There's a Kraken, but the immunity frames save his life. Kero, he's on the run from FrostiaK, but his 2 tanky teammates, they're there to help. Repikas is as well. FrostiaK's doing a lot, but I don't know if he can handle 4. He has to back up.
FrostiaK, he's not getting trapped under that wall. Luckily, No Numbers was looking for the pull push. Great response by the members of New Game Plus, keeping Kero alive. Now, the last time Kero died to FrostiaK was because his relics were down, but this time around, the Aegis was available. He absorbed a lot of those shots coming out of FrostiaK. He bought himself enough time for the rest of his teammates to keep him alive, and as a result, now walking away, they can look for more of a reset.
this push and pull that this game has been for the last 4 minutes or so, in my mind, benefits Novus Orsa. They have the late game composition like we've touched on multiple times, and even though they haven't cut into this gold lead at all, it's just about getting those numbers on the clock a little bit higher, getting that gold, getting any sort of farm that you can, because right now, this is exactly when New Game Plus's composition is strongest to fight into.
The question remains, can Novus Orsa get to that late game? Still level 14 only onto, or sorry, 15 now onto ShadowNightmare. He just now hitting it, going for a relatively mid-game build still with the Poison Star Wind Demon combination. Hasn't been having too much of a great game here, sitting with 2 deaths, only 1 kill to his name, and this is going to be a very uphill climb for Novus Orsa. They need to find a way to get these hunters into the late game form.
Blue buff started up with the blink from Murrdurr, going to force the purification. FleuryQ, he's walled off, nowhere to go. Boom goes the dynamite. Murrdurr is going to be able to pick him up. Ducky eats that CC chain as well. Repikas up into the sky, finds a 3-man knockup. Ducky, he's still trying to survive, but the boar is CCing everyone from New Game Plus. There's the Kraken, but he gets pulled out of it by the Earthbreaker. I think it'll still be enough to pick him up. It will. FrostiaK will still fall. Repikas chases down ShadowNightmare. 3 dead on the side of Novus Orsa. This team that many expected to be the favorites coming into Relegations totally not looking like themselves.
What a clean fight coming out of New Game Plus, grabbing 3 members from Novus Orsa, not losing anybody in the process, finding a stun onto Frezzyy, a secondary one, getting pulled back into the action. Frezzy's gonna go use that ultimate, but he's over a whirlpool. He's gonna be crippled, and now Ducky has to figure out a way to get out of this as the right side. Phoenix is gonna get sieged.
The wall from Murrdurr is perfect yet again. There's the Earthbreaker waiting on the driving strike from no numbers, doesn't have it. Ducky may be able to get to that fountain because of it, and he will. Even with the additional movement speed from Shield of Regrowth, no numbers just cannot catch up to that enemy solo laner, but 14-5. New Game Plus. They're looking like they're in a great spot to take this game.
And I love this build coming out of no numbers. The Shield of Regrowth is going to position himself closer to the 2 hunters, and on top of this, he has Hide of Nemi in line with the Thorn. So every single build, no matter what build ShadowNightmare FleuryQ do, as long as that Thorns is active, that's going to be doing so much return damage, and essentially you're not getting off the DPS you really want, because you don't really want to be hitting a Hercules that has those 2 items.
Especially with the lack of lifesteal coming out of both of these hunters for Novus Orsa. That's usually the agreed upon counter for Hide of the Nemean Lion, is that lifesteal to really punch through it. Speaking of getting punched, Ducky, he's taking a lot of damage, but he's going right on top of Kero. Aegis gonna buy him some time, but not enough. ShadowNightmare, he's gonna be able to pick up that kill. Repikas is here. Ducky, he's gonna trade his life for Kero's. FrostiaK, he's pounding the ground. They're trying to pick up Murrdurr, but the body blocks from no numbers are perfect. They can't get to him.
ShadowNightmare taking a lot of damage. No numbers able to penetrate the backline. Gamehunter assisting him a little bit further. Still cutting. Thorns is active, but he finds the heal. He's not going to be able to survive. Too much control between the tremors and the slow. Gamehunter has to retreat. Unfortunately, you're trying to utilize that portal was at their disadvantage. Frezzyy going to go into the dragon form. Gamehunter and Murrdurr finding the stun. Frezzyy is still alive.
Not until Repikas finds him with that dart, though. FrostiaK, he's trying to get away from that Shards of Ice damage. Will do so for now, but Repikas, he's going to be able to pick up his 7th kill of the game. The jungler for New Game Plus, making it happen with this first pick Ratatoskr. And if he's going to play like this every game, totally, they could first pick Rat all they want.
Every single time, especially with these 2 hunters, that surprisingly enough, that was picked into the Ratatoskr. Gods without escapes. Now, you do have CC immunity onto ShadowNightmare with his boar, but there's no option for FleuryQ, and as a result, he had 2 very early deaths, and that allowed Gamehunter to get a slight lead and just, safely get those Transcendence stacks to put himself in a position in these mid-game teamfights. And as a result now, New Game Plus sitting with a 10-kill lead, 13,000 gold, still now finally starting the Fire Giant, heading into the 27-minute mark.
Novus Orsa has to respond here. Ducky knows what's going on. He's coming in. He does have that Eagles rally, but no numbers is here to just harass him again and again with this CC. Fire Giant, it's already done. New Game Plus already have the Fire Giant buff, and as a result, Novus Orsa have to retreat. Double purification there, bot by Repikas. Gonna get a lot of damage, but he'll be safe for now. Murrdurr hits Ducky with that slow. The chase is on. No numbers again. On point with the pull. Ducky just trying to survive. It's not going to be enough. Kero evens up his scoreline with his 2nd kill. 2-2-9 for the mid laner for New Game Plus, and just no response from Novus Orsa whatsoever.
The first casualty of the team fight there, Ducky unfortunately getting the worser end of these things, and yet again another SPL team has been doing so much work here against these new Challenger Circuit teams that are trying to make their way into the Season 4. 5 members rather, with Fire Giant sieging down that mid. Phoenix right side is still down, no numbers, finding a pull, but it's getting clipped by that middle Phoenix.
Phoenix is already dead. Frezzyy, he's taking a little bit of damage, only level 12 for the support. There's the transformation into the Dragon, but the Kraken's waiting for him. Kero picks him up. There's the wall from FrostiaK, gonna do a good amount of damage. Tremors, just not quite enough. Murrdurr, he's level 17, can't punch through that. Tanky support, even though he had the early deaths. Now you can't handle him. 20-7, 28 minutes. The Titan, the focus right now for New Game Plus. Novus Orsa, this double hunter lineup just not bringing it in.
No, not quite yet. They didn't get to the late game that they really wanted to. The rallying ritual is there. No numbers is going to bring in Murrdurr into the action. ShadowNightmare's going to fall. Repikas going to land, and Ducky's going to fall as well. FleuryQ is just using his Aegis into the fountain. The Titan is soon to fall as well.
There it is, 28 minutes in. New Game Plus, they take the game over Novus Orsa, the team that I think most expected to be the favorites here, Tolly. They tried something new, they tried to adapt to Season 4, but they just couldn't do it.
No, unfortunately not, especially considering they had so much synergy between Ducky, ShadowNightmare, and FrostiaK, but they really wanted to try to go for this kind of janky double hunter composition, which succeeds very effectively in the mid game if you can get there safely, but FleuryQ got continuously bullied by Repikas on that Ratatoskr.
And you got to give a lot of shout-outs to Repikas on that Ratatoskr, as well as no numbers on the Hercules. Just that amazing frontline capability from him. The boulders, the steal of the Portal Demon, which allows his team to rotate in. Just a work of art. Let's go to the replays. We've got a couple great ones there for New Game Plus, and it is Repikas on this Ratatoskr. You mentioned it earlier on, Tolly, just making life difficult for FleuryQ in this duo lane.
Yeah, just the purification was a little bit too late. He found the knock-up anyway. If he saved the purification, allowed himself to get knocked up anyway, maybe he would have survived if he used the beads onto the stun instead, but yet again, just over and over again. Even using the Aegis wasn't enough here because Gamehunter was at a point with his Transcendence stacks doing the damage necessary to find FleuryQ.
It's just it's from the same exact spot. Those were two identical clips, just at a different time on the in-game clock. Repikas, like we mentioned, FleuryQ just could never get it going. The AMC pick, risky, high risk, high reward. We never got to saw that high reward.
No, unfortunately not. But you can't pick a god without an escape into a global jungler. It just doesn't really make sense. You're going to get bullied every single time at this level. If you're a jungler that doesn't take advantage of a god that doesn't have an escape, you need to reevaluate your priorities.
Well, we've seen every team in action so far here at Relegations. We're going to throw to a quick break, but when we come back, we'll see the next game, Game 4, coming up.